Hello everyone. We're going to do another example problem today. This one is from homework 1.3 and this is my question number 17. Again, yours might be different. It just depends. They're all randomly generated. So this one has lots of parts to it, and so I picked this one because it's going to cover lots of things, and we're going to talk about making sure we pay attention to the instructions on how to type these into my math lab. So the first question's asking about the domain. So if we look at this, the domain, remember, refers to the x values that we are using. They don't have an end point here, so it's implied that this goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. So our graph is going left forever. We're using all of these x values eventually, right? We might not get to it till we're way down here, but we are going to use these x values. We're going to use all the x values. We're going to use all the x values until we get to positive 2, and then it stops. So my domain starts with negative infinity because we start on the left side and goes all the way until we get to positive 2. Now that is going to be a bracket because it is an endpoint with a closed circle. The range, same idea, but we're looking at y values. So it starts way down here. This is still negative infinity. When we were doing domain, we were using the left side, which is negative infinity, but using range, we're doing the y-axis. So we're using negative infinity down here, and we're using all of our y values until, well, we don't stop here because the graph goes above this point, so we got to keep going. All of the y values until we get to y equals 3. That's the last y value that we use as y equals 3. So my range goes from negative infinity because I start at the bottom all the way up until I get to 3. And again, that's going to be a bracket because even though this isn't a point per se, it is a point because it's the solid line here. They would have to specify that it was open if we were supposed to make it open. So that's that. Okay. The next questions are asking about the zeros, and notice it gave us one of the zeros here, so we have to be careful because we don't want to miss that and then accidentally type it again. So it's saying the zeros of the function are -4 and what? So zeros are the same thing as x-intercept, so we're looking for where it crosses the x-axis. So it crosses here at -4, and they already listed that. It hits again at positive 2. So my zeros are -4 and positive 2. That's where it crosses the x-axis. The next thing is saying it wants to know f of -3.5. Remember, the number in the parentheses is my x value and the answer is my y value. So it wants to know if the x value is -3.5, what is the y value? So -3, all right, hold on, -1, -2, -3.5 means we're in the middle here, and if I go up, my function is right here at 1. So f of -3.5 should be 1 because that is the y value of the function at that point. The interval on which the function is increasing, and again we're going to use interval notation when we write this out, it is increasing from this left end all the way up until it gets to here, until it gets to -1. So it is increasing from the far left, negative infinity, up until it gets to -1. That is the section where it is increasing. When you're doing increasing and decreasing, you always use parentheses because we don't include endpoints when we're talking about increasing and decreasing. since it doesn't really make sense to say a point is increasing. Like a point can't be increasing all by itself. So we don't include endpoints. And we always refer to x values for increasing and decreasing. So for decreasing, my x values where I'm decreasing go from -1 up until 2, right? That's where I'm decreasing from here to here. So from -1 to 2, and again, always use parentheses with increasing and decreasing. Okay? So this is an interesting one. It says which interval or union of intervals, just meaning there could be multiple intervals, represents the values for which the function is less than or equal to 0, meaning where is the function negative? Okay, where is the function less than 0? So if we look at our graph, less than 0 means below the x-axis. This stuff down here is less than 0, okay, because it's below the x-axis. The stuff up here would be greater than 0, okay? So we only have one section that's less than 0. This section here, up until this point, this section is less than 0. So we're going to say it is less than 0 from -infinity all the way up until we get to -4. Okay? -infinity to -4. So how do we know which one to pick? Well, that's only one section. So already we can eliminate A, B, C, and D because those are set up for multiple sections. The difference between E and F is F ends with a parentheses, E ends with a bracket, okay? Now, the key to this is the fact that this says less than or equal to 0. That means we are going to include this point. We are including this point where it equals 0. If this had just said less than 0, then we would use F because we wouldn't include the endpoint. But because it says less than or equal to 0, we are going to include that endpoint. So we're going from -infinity up until -4. Okay, and if you have questions about this, remember you can post some questions in the forums. Oh no! Uh-oh. That's never a good sign. Interval union of intervals that include all the values of x. Well, guys, you get to see me make a mistake, but I'll tell you what I did. It said less than or equal to 0, right? So this is less than, this is all less than. This point is equal to 0. But what I forgot was this point is equal to 0. Oh, I made a mistake, but it's a very common mistake. And I'm going to leave it in the video. I'm glad you guys got to see it. It happens all the time. So you have to just go back and kind of reevaluate. So it is not just one section. It's one section plus a single value. And when we do single values, we use these curly brackets. Okay, so I actually needed to do this one. It was the section from -infinity to -4. And then also this union means and. Okay, so this section and the single value x equals 2. Okay, because again, we are below the x-axis here. We're equal to 0 here. But we're also equal to 0 here, and that's what I forgot about. So again, I'm going to leave that in the video. You guys are welcome to see. I make mistakes too. You know, it happens, but that's why we get to try again. Okay. The function has no smallest value, meaning no minimums. Okay. The maximum, though, is just the point where it reaches its max height. So it reaches the max height at 1,3. Okay. It says where f of x equals 3. Remember, that's the y value. Okay, over here is the y value. The x is right there. So it's where f of x equals 3. And it says f of x equals 3, where x equals, now it's asking for the x value. And this messes people up. Did I say 1 comma 3? I think it should have been, yeah, negative 1 comma 3. Gotta pay attention, my goodness. All right, negative 1 comma 3. There we go. All right, is f of 0 positive or negative? That's actually pretty easy. F of 0, we go to 0, we find the function at 0. It's 2 point something. It's between 2 and 3, but definitely positive. So we just say it is positive. All right, was that the last one? That was the last question. So again, these multiple part questions, they can be challenging because we get into a rhythm and we start moving too fast and then maybe we overlook something, right? It happens. So you just got to be careful and you got to not get frustrated and just go back and look at it and see what you messed up. All right, if you have any questions, post them in the discussion or you can send me an email. Thanks.